Hello, my name is Yudi and this is the Yudi Factor. The Yudi Factor is a program that understands that knowledge is power. And week after week, we will empower you by discussing issues that we find in our circumstances day after day, week after week. And we hope to empower you with information to help you make informed choices when you factor in something you've heard on the Yudi Factor. And today, we're going to be talking about the law and marriage, or marriage and the law. So many people are ignorant of what the laws, Nigerian laws, says about marriage, says about divorce and alimony. But today in particular, we're going to be talking about marriage and alimony. Recently on TV, a woman got $4.5 billion in Switzerland from her Russian husband in divorce settlement, the highest in the history of the world. And it set me thinking, if we have this kind of laws in Nigeria. Today, I have an eminent lawyer who has graciously accepted to come and discuss this issue. Robert Clark San is here with us. Hello, you're welcome. Chief.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
What is marriage?
Well, with the new concept of marriage in civilized, so-called civilized world, marriage means something else there. But when we relate it to Nigeria, marriage is the union of a man and a woman. The union depends on which type of marriage you enter into. The union of a man and a woman is, the concept under the Marriage Act, where a single man takes a single woman and they form a union. Marriage under customary law allows the man to have as many wives. Marriage under the Islamic law also allows the man to have only one wife. However, if for any reason whatsoever he wants to have more than one wife, he can have up to 4. But there's a caveat. He must ensure that he treats them equally and loves them equally. But by Jove, how many men can do that? These are the 3 types of marriage that is recognized in Nigeria. In civilized countries, in quote, they have what you call common law marriage. Many types of marriages have been developing in the other world. But here in Nigeria, we are restricted to these 3 types.
How about the church wedding? The church wedding. The churches are licensed under the Marriage Act to ensure a monogamous form of marriage. So when you marry in the church that has a license under the law, then your license is governed, by the law, which is the Marriage Act. Okay. All these marriages have their ingredients for them to be marriage. Take, for instance, the native land custom. What must be the ingredient? What are the ingredients that will make it a marriage?
You see, years and years ago, what constitutes a valid customary marriage is the belief that a customary marriage is not between the man and the woman, but between one family and the other. Therefore, with that basic concept, 2 things must. The consent of the parents that are giving out their daughter must be sought. That is the first. The man who is asking for the hand of the girl must also pay some dowry. So under customary law, those 2 vital things are important. There must be consent of the parents and there must be payment of dowry. But interestingly enough, I have, at least on one occasion, I was chairman of a marriage ceremony under native law and custom, where the dowry was being presented to the parents, and the father says, our daughter is not for sale. We don't accept money. and in the presence of everybody returns, the dowry and says, look, we don't sell our daughter. And after the ceremony, I called the husband and the wife. I said, look, what you have just passed through now may not in law constitute a valid ceremony. So think twice. Either you go to the registry and go and do another marriage. I said, because the ingredient that, stands out as one of the principal tenets of customary marriage has been jettisoned by the parents of the bride, of the bride, So better think twice. But this is what is happening nowadays. The present-day Nigerians feel that, look, I don't need to receive money to betroth my daughter to a man.
In Nigeria, we get married under the native law and custom, under the Act, and we have a wedding, all that. And I remember when I was talking to you, you said something about double-decker marriage. What's that?
Look, when we were young, in the early 60s, we were all going to England to study. There was an Igbo boy based in Onitsha, and he wanted to go to further his studies in England. And the parents called him and said, you must take a wife here from your village. And when you get to London, we will be sending the wife there to meet you. So they married under the Igbo native law and custom. He went to England. After 3 years, he decided to ask the woman, okay, you have finished your secondary school, come and meet me in England. And she arrived in London, and she was to start a nursing career. So when she filled the form, she wrote Mrs. Uhochukwu. So they asked her, where's your marriage certificate? Oh, she says, no, we got married under native law and custom. And under Nigerian native law and custom, we don't issue marriage certificates. So the institution says, no way, we will not accept you, except you now go to the registry here in Pancras Hall, which was the usual wedding place, and go and perform a marriage so that you can have a certificate so we can call you Mrs. So the same man and woman who married in Onitsha under native law and custom went to St. Pancras Hall and got married under English Marriage Act. Now, after about 10, 12 years of marriage, the marriage broke down, and the husband wanted a divorce. So he went to the English court and said, look, I want to divorce my wife. The conditions were there. The woman told her lawyer, says, look, even if this court here in London divorces me and my husband, the marriage they are divorcing is the one I contracted with him here in London under the Marriage Act. That does not remove the fact that in Nigeria, my marriage to him under customary law still subsists.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. And this is the UD Factor. Yes, Chief?
So the court in London said, look, what sort of problem have I in my hand? That's the judge.
Yes.
Justice Elias, late Justice Elias, was the Attorney General of Nigeria then, and he was the Dean, Faculty of Law, Lagos University. So the court had to call him here from Nigeria to come and give an expert opinion, what we now call double-decker marriage, because yes, it's very common today. Yes, a young couple marry under native law and custom. The two people will rush to court again to go and marry. They call it double-decker marriage, So Dr. Elias gave an opinion which many Nigerian lawyers did not accept or like to accept. He said if two people who are old enough to get married under the law, who are above 18 or 21 years, agree after their first marriage to go and do another form of marriage, it means they have jettisoned the earlier marriage and they have decided to accept the new marriage. Therefore, in his view, that the English law was the proper marriage where, the parties now could be divorced. And if they are divorced, the customary law no longer exists. But many Nigerian lawyers felt Dr. Elias was giving advantage of English law over Nigerian law. That why should that be? Nigerian customary law is known and accepted by Nigerian law. So people have to be very careful. That happened over 50 years ago. Interestingly enough, the day you talked to me, yes, I had a friend of mine, a judge of the High Court, who came to my chambers. And I asked him this question that, look, so he told me 2 years ago, this same question came up for consideration, double-decker. He is a young man, so he was not aware of this case I knew about 50 years ago, which is reported in Nigerian law too. So I had to tell him about that, and I thought no other cases have come. He said, no, 2 years ago, this matter also came up. So it is a moot question now. Which of the two marriages? So young couples must be advised now to be very careful, until the Nigerian courts decide the issue here in Nigeria. Then there is no binding precedence here yet, but it might happen.
Chief, do you think that because the traditional marriage don't give women the security, the traditional marriage allows your husband to take another wife while marrying under the Act doesn't? Do you think that's why after the native law and custom, they go to the registry too?
That is the fear. To be honest with you, I am not too anti-women, but it is the women who push it because of insecurity. I agree with you. The fear that my husband, if we stick to this customary marriage, one day, Yanga go saying they go get another house. So let me make assurance doubly sure.
But then you still have Nigerian men who marry under the Act and they still go take another wife on traditional marriage.
Well, many of us, and I would say that of Nigerian men, we have done that many, many times.
So which now brings me to the law on bigamy.
Now you have touched a very sore point. Bigamy is a criminal offense, which is punishable, I think, by 2 years imprisonment. There is only one history in Nigerian jurisprudence of somebody being, taken to court for bigamy and being sentenced. And when the defense he put up was that, yes, I married under the Act, but I'm now a Muslim. Then I was a Christian. I have now changed my religion. I'm now a Muslim. And under the Muslim law, I can marry. But that defense was never upheld. So he was sent. But since then, this was about 60 years ago or 50 years ago or so. Under the Marriage Act, bigamy is an offense created under the Act. That is where a man who is already married under the Marriage Act goes out and takes another woman and marries her.
Whether under native law and custom?
No. Under the same law, under the Marriage Act.
Okay.
Now, many men have used that little area under the same law to now take women, even though they are married under the Marriage Act, will go and have what the Englishman calls a mistress. They will now take a mistress out, and after a child or two, the parents will say, come and pay the dowry, come and do, and they perform customary marriages again. Interestingly enough, 2 years ago, Lagos State has removed bigamy as a criminal offense. So it is no longer an offense under Lagos State, to be charged for bigamy. But that does not mean that under the Marriage Act, it is still not an offense. It is only Lagos State that says, look, we don't regard it as a criminal act. So that is the situation about bigamy. It is more observed in its breach than, in compliance with the law.
If your husband is guilty of that.
If your husband does that, It's one
You
of
can
the
sue
good
him for
ground.
divorce and your sites began.
You can cite that as a reason for your divorce.
But
And
if it's
then
in
you
Lagos
might-
State, it means nothing will happen to the man.
No, you won't be taken to court for any criminal offense. As I said, it's more observed in his breach. Many of us men, we have breached that provision of the law. And, you know, even with due respect to our women, most of them even encourage us to so do. You know, it's unfortunate, but that is the truth.
That's sad. What would encourage a woman? What would make a woman encourage her husband to go and take another wife
If she wants happiness in the house, and this lady outside is giving her so much problem, the husband won't stay at home. You know, most of the time he's with the other, you know, woman. Bring her in so that we know she's in. So, you know, for the peace of the children, for the peace of the family. So some women do that, you know.
We've heard in different countries of the world, women receive alimony, they get maintenance. Do we have such in our law books?
You see, the Nigerian law regarding divorce, the Matrimonial Causes Act, is virtually aligned and based under the English law. So whatever you find under the English law, maintenance, alimony, custody of children, all these provisions are also in the Nigerian law. I have been privileged to have handled almost 25 divorce cases. And I have seen so many, you know, areas of this welfare for children, you know, custody of children, alimony, maintenance. And many of them, they are all under Nigerian law, and the women are entitled to it. Previously, under English law, a deserting wife will not be allowed to claim for maintenance. That was during the Victorian era. That if a woman finds that the husband is not treating her well at home, and she can no longer tolerate staying together, and she goes out, under the Victorian law in those days, oh, they would say, oh, she's not entitled to maintenance. She walked out. But Lord Denning came in, one of the masters of the rules, and said, look, even a deserting wife can still claim for maintenance. And they do claim for maintenance. Once they can show that their continued stay in the matrimonial home, you know, may cause them any irretrievable loss or any damage to health or anything, and that the marriage has broken down irretrievably, they can walk away from the marriage. And they will still be entitled to everything the law allows them to have.
Abroad, I believe it's easy. Like the case I cited where a man paid his wife $4.5 billion. Well, I think he's on appeal. The man's wealth was sort of halved. And the Swiss law, I think, from what I read, allows that. Do we have those kind of laws in Nigeria?
There is. There is a Supreme Court judgment, Ibukun versus Ibukun, which is the standard case in adjudging what a woman may have as maintenance or alimony. You see, when a woman and a man start a married life, their level of, you know, sophistication, their level of wealth may be very low at that time. After 20 years, 25 years, the man becomes a multi-billionaire. Maybe the woman is basically a housewife who has been looking after the children, has been looking after the home, doing nothing. The Nigerian law, as well as the English law, looks at these factors and says, look, you cannot punish a woman, you know, because she has not worked. You have to relate her duties in maintaining the family. The peace of mind she has given this man to have allowed the man to make so much money, she should have to share as part of it. So if the marriage breaks down, there are many, many things the court has to consider in making, depending on what the woman wants.
Hold the thought, Chief. Amnesty International has describes domestic violence in Nigeria as shocking. We know of it, we've heard of instances where husbands now kill their wives. I think there's one where the man's been sentenced to death, even though he's on appeal right now. If a woman gets into that kind of situation and says, look, I can no longer stay in this marriage, how does she start the process?
You see, under the Matrimonial Causes Act, I think Section 15 of that act stipulates reasons under which a marriage can be set aside. The bottom line is that the marriage must have broken down irretrievably. That, you know, as between the husband and wife, there is no amount of, you know, juggling that can make them. And to be able to prove that a marriage has broken down irretrievably, the law lists about 9 grounds. So you can pick. For instance, if a woman and a man have stayed apart for a period of 2 years, and that is pointing to your question, the woman walks away from the house. After 2 years, she can institute a divorce proceedings. But if the husband does not want the divorce, she still has to prove the reason why she moved out from the matrimonial home. But after 3 years, if a man and a woman are no longer living together continuously for 3 years, the court will not listen to the reason why they are not staying together. The court will grant a divorce as of right because of that period. So a woman does not need to show why she moved out. So a woman can move out if she finds she's been abused or this or that. But the law says she cannot ask for anything until after 2 years she can bring, and it is then she may ask for maintenance, she will ask for, and if she takes the children along with her, she will ask for the children to be maintained. But when she's apart for those 2 years, she can still bring applications for maintenance for the children and herself.
What is maintenance?
You see, maintenance is this. I have been staying with my husband, who is on average maybe a permanent secretary for years. I have been enjoying a standard of living commensurate to his position and his wealth. I no longer stay with him. I am no longer agreed to be his wife. But I want to be maintained in that same position that I was enjoying. I will not say because I am no longer his wife, then my standard of living should fall. So the courts, and that is the criteria the Supreme Court used in this case I mentioned, Ibukun and Ibukun, the court in granting a maintenance to a woman will look at the status of the man, his capabilities, his capacity to earn money, and that status will enable the court to adjudge how much of this, you know, can be passed on to the woman. But that does not mean that after that dissolution of the marriage and that maintenance, she cannot come back again. She can. If the husband tomorrow becomes a billionaire, you see, this is where many women don't, you know, really know their rights, you know, in Nigeria. Once the husband starts, maybe tomorrow he becomes a minister, like in Nigeria, where the money starts coming in yamu yamu. You know, the wife now comes in and says, yes, I want to enjoy because, you know, his status has changed. When my maintenance was being structured by the courts, his standard of living was not like, I am to enjoy also with him. And if they do come in, the courts will grant them. That is maintenance. Maintenance is something that goes on every month. You maintain me until I die or until I remarry. So that is maintenance. But the other one, no, go on.
After she has received an alimony, can the man still continue the maintenance?
No, alimony is quite different from maintenance. You see, alimony is a lump sum of money. Instead of asking the man to maintain you until you die or until you remarry, you say, look, I don't want to see this man's face again. You know, I've suffered enough. I can't be waiting every month. He may not even send me the check. I can't be running after him, going to his house. Now, please, Mr. George, let me have a full lump sum of money. That is what they call alimony. And the instance you've mentioned in America, the women, knowing how rich the husbands are, they will ask for this alimony. And alimony also, the court will look at the status of the man, but it is the wife that has to prove to the court that this is what the man is worth. Many men, in many cases that I've done, will hide, their wealth. And many, many women who know what they want will engage private detectives
to seek it out,
to start going with these new days of IT, Google the man, do this, do that, and get foreign law, because most of Nigerian men now who are wealthy have their money outside. And by Jove, before you know what is happening, the woman has got all this information. So by the time she's asking the court to give her this and this, the judge's eyes will be even shining that, look, but that is the law. The status of the man will determine the amount of alimony the court can grant to the woman.
Chief, we cannot finish this in just this episode. You'll join us for the concluding part. Thank you for coming to...
It's always my pleasure.
Educate us.
Thank you very much.
And then I have a few more questions to ask you as we go into the next episode. Thank you, viewers. And like I said, the UD Factor is a program that empowers you with so much information. So you battered wives out there, now you know what to do. Until I come your way another time, God bless you.